Emulsion podcast.
Rapid fire questions, but you had mentioned that you had done some work before this conversation to kind of frame some intentionality. Is there anything that you had wanted to discuss or, kick the ball around with that we haven't gotten a chance to discuss?
I think one thing just as the conversation went, and when we were thinking about chefs and back house staff, and I have a lot of friends who are chefs or back house staff that left the industry through COVID in a very frustrated way. And my phone rings from somebody to say, I wasn't told what was happening. I'm angry. I've given this company 8 years of my life, and they provided no clarity. So they're really in that challenging time. So I just want to make sure that if someone's looking to go to another restaurant, or if you're looking to become a consultant, the biggest thing with becoming a consultant is really seeing your own value. So if I could encourage anybody here, like when I went out and started doing consulting, and this isn't to wave a flag on my side, that we were charging like $250 for a speaking gig. Now we're charging $7,500 to $10,000 for a speaking gig, and it's essentially the same talk. I just couldn't see my own value when I started. And it does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. I've got 15 years to track that forward. But I encourage you, before you set your pricing, before you set your plan, to sit down and talk to others and really get comfortable around, can you live, can you thrive, can you survive what you get 3, 4, 5 clients after what you're trying to do, and how do you see your own value, whether you're going to go be a leader or manager somewhere else, or how do you see your own value as a consultant? And even everybody I've talked to in the consultant spaces went through, you set your rate based on how you see your value, not how the person that you're looking to work with sees your value. As long as you could have a solid case and provide an ROI. And I know that sounds a bit woo-woo and fluffy, but I just really want anybody who's looking to make a change. If you're a manager looking to go be a manager somewhere else, there's less of you than there are positions. So just try to. I've negotiated for some of my manager friends some great packages in the last couple months, and they're fair on both sides. And if you're looking at being a consultant, just spend that little bit of extra time checking in with yourself to know your value, because I assume it's more than you think it is.
It's potentially a counterpoint. I have this video that I put out probably coming up on 3 years ago now, where I talk about the difference between a cook and a chef. And my argument, basically the punchline of that video, is that I think more professionals should call themselves chefs. Because you get to this place where, oh yeah, it's cool to say, oh, I'm just a cook, I'm just a line cook, I'm just a cook. And you downplay. And all of that flips when you're looking for your new opportunity. And you kind of have to do this investigative journey back through your experience to say, oh no, I do know how to do food cost. Oh, I do know how to write menus. Oh, I do know how to do a little bit of graphic design, because this one time I got asked to edit the menu document and print it. And I do know how to kind of like do customer service and talk about food. Yeah. And I think that this constant downplaying bites you in the butt sometimes. Like, sure, it might prevent you from getting this big ego of like being able to walk around with your chest puffed out that you're a chef, but I don't see any harm in that. Like, wouldn't you want to work with a bunch of, like, a big large team of 11 chefs on the team? Like, that's fucking badass, like you guys can conquer the world with a team of 11 chefs versus like, oh well, I'm not the chef, so I can't make that decision, that's the chef's job. And I think that's kind of what you're saying is basically, I see it as backing up my point that you should kind of value yourself a little bit more than wherever you might be valuing yourself at now.
Yeah. And I think it's looking, when we look at the job posting of what somebody's looking for, so they're going to be looking for chef experience, cooking experience, but they're also looking for, really ultimately on any management position, how do you guide other human beings? How do you earn the trust of them? How do you communicate with them? How do you get consistency by leading them? And that, I think, where the value is. And some of the other tactical things we can learn. I think it's the want to learn. Like, if we have to redo a menu design and we're responsible for design, are you willing to say, hey, I'm willing to learn a design function if that's part of the position here? But ultimately, as leaders, if you've worked in the back of house, at certain points in your career, you have coached and guided other people to do great things. And unfortunately, we're trained to say we did 400 covers last night and we messed up 7 and we focus on the 7. But it's to look at what's the percentage of great experiences we created in your career. A question to ask yourself: how many people have you worked on a team with? How many people have worked with you? And I don't use the words a lot, but worked for you in the hierarchy of the structure of the restaurant you worked with. and sharing that type of experience and what your desire is. But we really want to lead a restaurant so others do things consistently based on the specs that we've set as a chef. If we can sell that, like if I'm an owner and I can get a chef to go in and say, I've led 186 people in my career, and here are the reviews, here's our customer service scores, and I have a desire to learn and develop and execute your vision. It's different than the chefs coming in and saying, why should I work for you?
And that's what ultimately allows you to potentially like burst through that ceiling, because a lot of chefs might be frustrated that like, cool, I started off making $10.25 an hour, then I got promoted to $18.75, and then I got management where I was making $34 an hour, but I'm kind of stuck there. Yeah. I don't really know how to kind of like crack through that. And what you're talking about is potentially one of the multiple ways where you could potentially burst through that ceiling.
Yeah, I think it's the ability to let go and coach others to do the job. If not, we're going to bottleneck in doing it. I've seen so many incredible chefs that have to continue to do certain elements of execution or prep or scheduling or costing or menu design, menu innovation. But at a certain point, if you're the best at that and not able to replace yourself, then you're going to bottleneck yourself. And then you get, I see great female leaders and male leaders call me and say, I've got no opportunity for growth. And when we unpack it, I can't tell you how many leaders are at the end of it, they've got tears rolling down their face because they're like, you're right. Like, I'm not delegating any of this or willing to, and I don't want the pressure anymore. So at a certain point, you have to decide, do you want to execute? Do you want to personally execute, or do you want to lead? And it took me, I'm saying this lightly, it took me 5 years in my business to get out of my own way and put a CEO in. I'm not a CEO, I'm an artist. I've got a CEO, and I put James in place in both my companies and stepped out of the way. And they've had record years since, growth and customer service and everything. But it took me that long, so I say it lightly. I needed to get out of my own way and do what I was best at. And in doing so, I was able to continue to grow. And I hope if you look at where you want to be, you can create gravity in that direction, not just gravity towards where you are today.
Love that.
The Emulsion Podcast.